Allevard is a French commune in the Isère department in the Rhône-Alpes region of southeastern France. The inhabitants of the commune are known as Allevardins or Allevardines, or alternatively as Allevardais or Allevardaises. The commune has been awarded 2 flowers by the National Council of Towns and Villages in Bloom in the competition of cities and villages in bloom. Geography. Allevard is located in the Belledon Mountains, 40 km southeast of Chambéry and 38 km northeast of Grenoble. The commune is accessed by the D525 from Gonslin in the southwest, following the mountain ridge through the village and continuing northeast to La Chapelle-du-Bard. There are also some minor roads such as the D9 parallel to the D525 going to the north and the D108 which accesses the village from the D525. There is a tortuous mountain road, the D109, which goes east of the village and eventually circles back to the north of the commune. The town has quite a large urban area in the west of the commune, however, the rest of the commune is mountainous and heavily forested. The Bourg stream forms the southern boundary of the commune flowing west, and the Bousson forms the northern boundary also flowing west. These streams, together with numerous other streams, flow into the Breda, which flows north through the commune then west to join the Isère near Pontcharra. Localities and hamlets. There are several hamlets and localities in the commune. These are neighboring communes and villages. History. Heraldry. The Middle Ages to modern times. Allevard Castle stood above the town on a hill surrounded by a wall 60 toises long and described, and water flowed from the Breda and partly from the Sarbodie. The village was also fortified. Its enclosure was 13 toises accessible through 4 doors. It was first mentioned in 1100. A large house on the edge of town, near Vington and the mill canals in 1367. A quoted recollection, Menes Curtina et Clausura. In the Middle Ages, Allevard was the seat of a lordship. The survey of 1339 reported the existence of a large house in a place called the Atti d'Arvillard, Castrum Basti d'Alti Villaris, located on a mound dominating the Allevard Valley for 100 meters. The site is naturally protected on 3 sides by cliffs. On the accessible side, a hummock bars the way. The survey states, Dicta mortem castrum situatum est in quoddam altissimo mola valde eminente e defensibile. The Lords gave the people of Allevard many exemptions successively modified by the franchise charter from the University in 1315 and in 1337. Until 1558 these charters were, depending on the financial needs of the crown, more or less respected by the kings of France. In 1558 Henry II committed to sell, subject to possible repurchase, the land of Allevard. In 1644 the engaged Lord of Allevard was called Thomas Chabot of St. Maurice, of Savoyard noble. His son, Charles, was ambassador of Savoy to the court of Versailles. Charles subrogated the sale to François de Barral, who was advisor to the Parliament of the Dauphiné, the son of Gaspard, a lawyer and advisor to the Queen Mother, and to Mary Vignon, and the wife of François de Bon, Constable of France. Gaspard de Barral already owned a steel mill near Renage and iron mines on the mountain of Saint-Pierre-de-Levard. The Barral family era. The Barral family were influential and powerful as they were related to the Ponart, Veryu, and Tenson families, who were richly established in Voiron and Saint-Aubry. Under François Barral de Clermont major work was undertaken in the small and very unhealthy walled town of Allevard. The people are piled up in old unhealthy houses and without comfort or usual support. The streets are unpaved, narrow, and winding with mud kept wet with the dampness which favored epidemics and the emergence or persistence of goiter. The construction of the first stone bridge dates from 1688 and the renovation renovation of the old church plus the redevelopment of the former castle were completed between 1692 and 1693. The first opening in the south wall of the city followed. François de Barral de Clermont, the uncle of the famous Tenson, died in 1699 as the Dean of the Parliament of Grenoble. In 1751 the king established the territory of Allevard under his command under the name of the County of Barral as a perpetual lordship for Jean-Baptiste de Barral. Paulin de Barral 17, his grandson, was the last lord of Allevard and of Jalony and Bourbonnais, who sold at a loss his castle and his factories in 1817 to A.B. Champollion. The iron industry Allevard was an important centre for metallurgy and for the quality of its steel products until the early 20th century. There is a legend, created from the text of Suetonius and Polybius, which claims that Hannibal went to Allevard to manufacture his weapons. The history of Allevard is closely linked to the Alpine steel industry. In 1450, Pierre and Arthur Bosson had a trip hammer in Allevard town which still existed in 1724. During a tour of the factory by special commissioners of the king in 1724, it was determined to be the oldest of its kind in the kingdom. Another trip hammer at the same era was in operation in the village of Pinsard, which is upstream on the Breda. A study of the remains indicated that the Allevard community had, between 1643 and 1727, a total of 76 works on the Bredal stream. 3 blast furnaces, 21 trip hammers, 36 flour mills, 2 hemp beaters, 6 presses, 6 water-powered saws, 1 nail factory, and 1 fuller's earth plant. The steel industry was highly profitable because at the same time, the price per 100 kilos for the melting furnace. Total production in Allevard was 54,255 kilograms, went from 4 livres 5 sols to 9 livres 10 sols. For many years Allevard remained an industrial site of great importance under as the blacksmith lords of the Barral family, who constantly sought to innovate with the advice of the engineer Binelli and Sir Pierre Clement Grignon, collaborator in the Encyclopedia of Diderot. In 1785, the Barral establishments employed around 300 foundrymen, 300 miners, and 200 colliers, to which should be added 100 mule drivers. Of these 900 workers, only 420 were directly employed by the factory. Others worked independently, particularly the miners and colliers. Shortly before the Revolution, a major project to relocate the Royal Naval Cannon Foundry of St. Gervais in the valley of the Isère to Allevard was considered. Only the relative weakness in the supply of charcoal put off the government. There needed to be 36,000 loads of coal per year when all the Allevard and nearby Grèce-Auden communities could provide was at most 15,000. The plant therefore became idle under the casual management of Paulin Barral, then of Messrs. Champel, who received the Duchess of Berry in Allevard in 1829, then Giroux, who were bankers and were soon bankrupted. Fortunately, in the 1840s, under the leadership of Eugène Charrière, production of the factories near Rives, which had been devoted only to cast iron, changed to puddled steel, with which the forges could get a wholesale railway market for steel tires, first welded, then the seamless tires developed by engineer A. Pinnet. In 1867, steel production was 2,000 tons. At the time, forges had a staff of 446 workers, of which 80 were metal rollers. The customers were then 400 companies, almost all French, which increased to 1,300 customers in 1906, with a workforce of over 700 workers and a large increase in exports. Austria-Hungary, Germany, Belgium, and Italy. Allevard also partnered with some great groups just before the First World War. It was also at Allevard that in 1859 some of the first armor plating for the frigate La Gloire were produced together with the companies Petertender, Saint-Chamond and Laubinière of Rouen. After the abandonment of cast iron from charcoal, the forgers converted to the Siemens process to manufacture steel, conserving for Allevard at the turn of the century the name and the place in the metallurgic world, to the satisfaction our Dauphinois pride and for the benefit of our courageous working population. At this time Allevard also had a silk factory employing a large female workforce, an establishment led by the Isère family who were related to Amy Acute Butcher, an industrialist and banker from Grenoble who quickly developed a major center of tourism based on hydrotherapy. Contemporary era, the forges succeeding his father and his grandfather, Charles Pinnett was the new ironmaster for Allevard at the turn of the century and former motive power engineer on the tramway of Lyon, and ahead of his time directed the energy supply for his establishments from power generation through falls, dams, and power plants he planned to build along the course of the Breda. In 1917, during the First World War, the Allevard forges passed into the control of the Compagnie des Forges et Aciéries de la Marine d'Armécourt under the guidance of Théodore Laurent. It was a time of great innovation, new hydroelectric developments on the Breda and concentration of production around springs, magnets, and ferroalloys. The 1930 crisis significantly affected Allevard and severely restricted its production. In 1940, the defeat and catastrophic floods in the upper valley of Breda and even stopped all production for some time. Liberation marked the renewal of machinery and a steady influx of immigrant workers on 3 industrial sites: the Gorge of Allevard, Champsapi, Saint-Pierre-de-Allevard, and Les Chailles. Subsequent years would see the adoption of continuous casting and the unfortunate association with Eugene for the manufacture of magnets. In 1973–1974 the completion of the power station of Moulins marked paradoxically the end of the forges from the home since the 15th century. Nowadays, the development of the silicon industry and its derivatives near Grenoble has led to a growth of urbanism which imposes by its sprawl major changes in the landscape of the commune, with other parts affected by agricultural abandonment and extensions of the forest. Spa. Very early on, famous people resided in Allevard to take the waters, such as Alphonse Daudet, Henry Frédéric Amiel, Frédéric Ozanam, Henry d'Orléans, Duke of Aumale. The greatest customers of Allevard, however, since 1880 have been the politicians, preachers, speakers, and singers who come to fix the voice. These include, among others, the actors Paul Mounet and Jean Mounet, Sully, the brothers Coquelin the elder and the younger, Effie Acute Elia Litvin, Germaine Lubin, Georgette Leblanc, then later Jean Orbit, Cécile Sorel, and Amia, who were singers. Politicians such as Eugène Chevandier de Valdrome, Eugène Rouha, Charles Floquet, Edouard Herriot, Georges Picot, Gustave Hervé, Alexandre Zervais, Auguste Berdeau, and Senator Auguste Schuré-Kestner in 1897 in the middle of the Dreyfus affair. There were also many other notable people, clerics such as Father Delaquiesec, the future Pope Benedict XV, Monseigneur Félix Dupanloup, the Genevan pastor Theodore Clappery, and the chief rabbi of France Isaac Schwartz, preachers such as Joseph Gratry of the French Academy, and Father Jean-Élie Couteau en la Prévost. Diplomats such as Camille Barrère, Count Vladimir Lambsdorff, Prince Pierre Wolkonsky, Count Zichy, and Princeps Salanti. The Romanian mountaineer Prince Alexandru Băbescu. Musicians such as Jules Massenet and Charles Lamoureux. Photographers such as Nadar and the Lumiere brothers. Poets such as Lucie de la Madras and Patrice de la Tour du Pin. Musicologists such as Paul-Marie Masson and Émile Vuillermoz. Painters such as Hippolyte Flandrin and Kees van Dongen. The novelists Germaine d'Acremont and Idemania. French academicians such as Victor de Laprade and René de Lacroix de Castries. Professors of medicine Louis Landouzy and Maxime Lénel Laverstein. Industrialists and financiers such as Pierre Dreyfus, Edward Molyneux, and Carlos de Gulbenkian. Swiss bankers Pictet and Morny. The chemist Joseph Bien-Aimé Caventou. The feminist Maria Lai, who worked at the local newspaper Chronicle of Allevard les Bains, led by Dr. Boel in 1903. Drive. Edmond Locard. The designer Jacques Fizand. The architect Henry Ravoil. President Fahad Abbas. The family of President Habib Bourguiba and Admiral Muselier are among other celebrities who have been regulars of the spa. The spa is effective, discreet, and very popular, with entertainers coming here is not for show but to heal and rest. Since 1936, Allevard has been popular with other clients thanks in particular to ent and lung treatments for children, which was initiated by Dr. Jean Langenier. Finally, it was in 1994 that a new spa building opened for the care and cure of rheumatology, which revived the first indications in 1838 by Dr. Laurent Chattaring, the first inspector of waters. Since then, the station has sought to open proposed new anti-stress treatments and also treatments for fibromyalgia. Administration. List of successive mayors. Mayors from 1935. Twinning. Allevard has twinning associations with Menagio since 1991. Demography. In 2009, the commune had 3,768 inhabitants. The evolution of the number of inhabitants is known through the population censuses conducted in the commune since 1793. For the 21st century, a census of communes with fewer than 10,000 inhabitants is held every 5 years. Unlike larger towns that have a sample survey every year, population change sources LDHEHESS Cassini until 1962, INSEE database from 1968. Transport. The town of Allevard is served by the 6200 route of the departmental network called Transisère. It is also served by several bus routes by Grèce-Yverdon with links including the Lycée Pierre to rail to Pontcharra and also to Gonslin railway station, with timings corresponding with the TER network to the cities of Grenoble and Chambéry. Sites and monuments. Civil heritage. The Tower of Troy is a beautifully restored private property and former stronghold of the first family of Barrel in the 13th century. The Château de Barrel and its park has some beautiful specimen trees of. This castle was rebuilt by Paulin de Barrel over an old house belonging to the notary Gaudier du Replat, with the walls lasting to hear salacious talk. It housed a collection of erotic paintings until 1820, comparable to that of Maurice de Saxe. It replaced the old Morat de Mons castle, which was famous for its fountains and waterfalls. It was located on the edge of the current Joseph de Barrel Park. It was destroyed to be sold as building materials at the request of Monseigneur Claude Matthias Barrel, Bishop of Troyes, who was ruined by his prodigalities during the exile of the Parliament of Paris in his episcopal city. A tomb in the cemetery in the form of a pyramid-shaped chapel topped by a statue of St. Stephen built by the Croix-Chanel family, who were descended from the kings of Hungary through the Arpadian dynasty. the spas and the thermal park. The whole is a unique example in France of grammar of styles for bathing establishments. Conch shell-shaped and dominated by the Hotel Splendid, it was designed by Parisian architect Masson as a metallic-framed structure. The park includes the Niepce Spa designed by the Norman architect Jory at the end of the 19th century, the former casino with a beautiful rotunda decorated with corbels in bas-relief, the Chardin Spa soon to be labelled Heritage of the 20th Century, built by the architect Jacques Terman Rosier and supervised by the architect Albert Laprade. It houses a fresco by Françoise Boudet, who won first Grand Prix de Rome and prize winner from the Casa de Balathe. The village rheumatology spa designed by Roche, an architect from Chambéry, decorated with ceramics by Roger Capron. A walk through the maze of small streets in the center of the town gives the tourist the impression of being inside the walls of a fortified city. The facades at the entrance to some houses have groupings of windows which indicate former properties of the forges of Allevard. The Allevard Museum, the House of Forges and Mills at Pinsat. Industrial heritage forges. There are no more buildings from the modern era existing in Allevard commune. The factory moved its last production to Les Chailles in the Isère valley between 1964 and 1974, but there are still remnants of older mines on the Iron Way and the remains of an grill oven at Saint-Pierre-de-Allevard. Sawmills. Many mills driven by water power have disappeared. However, there are still some remnants along the banks of streams and canals. Similarly, the trip hammers have all disappeared except for the houssière, and also the forges of Breda has been saved and reassembled in working order at the Museum of Forges and Mills in Pinsat. The railway. There remains some vestiges of the railway in the commune. An old viaduct from the Allevard Forges Railway which connected the plant to the mines of Saint-Pierre-de-Allevard and Les Chailles station, colloquially called La Taco, which was open until 1968. An old railway station from the Pont Charroux-les-Rochettes and Allevard tramway, a terminus for a narrow-gauge line between Isère and Savoy, was considered after the annexation of Savoy in 1861 but was commissioned very late and abandoned 50 years later. Religious heritage. The St. Marcel Church has a beautiful pipe organ built by the famous organ builder Aristide Cavalier-Coll. The altar of St. Eloi was made by Allevard blacksmiths in the 19th century. Facing the porch of the church on the left there is a very interesting vertical noonmark. The St. Joseph Chapel has a procession of artisans with the statue for the feast of St. Joseph. The Protestant Church of the Reformed Church of France opened on the 25th of June 1854. Located at 12 Place du Temple, 38,580 Allevard. Activities. Thermal cures. The first sulfur thermal spa treatments took place in 1813, but especially since 1848 under the tutelage of Dr. Bernard Niepce, the inspector of waters. The baths were operated originally by Pierre Villiet and de Bouvret-Roccour family and associates, then from 1882 by the Compagnie Générale des Eaux Minérales et Bains de Mer until it was redeemed in 1997 by the municipality and operated by SAEM Thermal. The operation runs today in a beautiful forested park surrounded by 3 thermal establishments with typical architecture from the 1890s until 1995. The Niepce building houses the breathing activities. The Villiet building receives patients with rheumatology. The Chardin building does not currently have thermal use. Rheumatology and musculoskeletal trauma. Respiratory. Winter sports resort. The commune has a ski resort, the Col d'Allevard, which is located 10 kilometers from the town. The altitude of the runs varies from 1,450 meters to 2,100 meters. The resort has 35 kilometers of runs, 7 green, 6 blue, 5 red, and 3 black. Created in 1955 on former communal grazing land reserved for summer pastures for the collective herds of the Allevard community, it is now served by a new route via the route of the old logging road across private land and the old Royal Delfinale forest. It reached its present size in 1975, and subsequent developments have primarily been to improve the existing domain. Interesting features for those who go there: its position on a balcony which allows 360 degrees view including Mont Blanc to the northeast and Montaiguil to the south. 4 very different sectors: Malatrait, Fontainebleau, Prérondla, Supercollet, Les Plaines. Current equipment: 2 chairlifts, 4-seater and embarking pads SKIRAIL brand, 1 chairlift of 4-seater Pommer brand, 1 chairlift 3-seater Pommer brand, 4 platter lifts with detachable poles with Pommer and MONTAZ brands, 1 platter lift with fixed poles DOPPELMAYR brand, 2 platter lifts for children with Pommer brand, 1 treadmill. Another feature is that Collet de Allevard is a first-class paragliding site, especially with its 4 official takeoff points, each with different orientation. Finally, Collet de Allevard offers one of the largest night ski areas in Europe, covering the Malatrait and Fontainebleau sectors. Casino. In accordance with the law of 1907 on casinos and gambling halls, the municipality of Allevard allowed the opening of a facility in May 1909. A company called Du Casino de Allevard Les Bains was formed at that time for its operation. In 1925, the architect Guénard carried out a complete overhaul of the building and its original decoration. The guests can find all the classic fun of this kind of establishment. The new Allevard Casino opened in 1994 and changed ownership in 2000. Sports DTG, a table tennis club for the communes of La Touve, Allevard, La Terrasse, and Lumbine. Local events: Saint Michel Market, once a fair held on the nearest Thursday to the 29th of September. The date is linked to that of the descent from alpine pastures, giving rise to a large festival day where the cows were decorated with leaves, wild flowers, and branches. At St. Michel, the Allevardins pay the debts to notaries who, on that day, officiate outside the doors of the inns. Those who could not fulfill them had an additional period of 1 month to finalize the debt before entering. The traditional dish always served in all restaurants on this occasion is the calf's head. Allevard had the reputation of being a land of plenty. Foreigners were received with open arms and without ostentation. No party, no meeting had a place without dancing. The violins come out from the neighborhood and on special occasions from Grenoble. Once a violin appears in Allevard, people gathered in the house where it is received. Each brought his supper. Notable people linked to the commune: Etienne Aubrier, painter; Paul-Under Barrel, a libertine who was used as a model for the character of Valmont in Les Liaisons Dangereuses by his cousin Pierre Chodelos de Leclos; Jean Béranger, skier, husband of Christine Goichel, from the hamlet of Montouvrade and former coach of the French team; Jean Guerdou Mollard, lawyer and politician, writer from Lyon, born in Allevard; Estelle Dubiff, wife of Fournier, born in 1797, daughter of the forge director Paul-Under Barrel, and granddaughter of the Allevardin notary Nicolas Gaudier du Replat, was the first and last love of Hector Berlioz. Bernard Niepce, doctor, cousin of Nice for Nie acute PCE, inspector of waters of Allevard and inventor of cold inhalations between 1848 and 1882. Eugene Charrière, ironmaster, developed the manufacture of steel for the railways and the navy at Allevard. Olivier Belaz, born in Allevard in 1856, student of the École Normale, associate of letters, collaborator with Jean Jaurès, leader of the People's University, a professor at the Lycée Charlemagne and the Lycée Buffon in Paris, collaborator with Ferdinand Bruno of the Society of Friends of Modern Education, historian of the Allevard region, author of In Allevard, a descriptive and historical essay on a canton of the French Alps. Elie Couteau and Camille Mal, engineer, designer of hydroelectric equipment of the Rhône. Monseigneur Charles Cotton, pastor archpriest of Allevard, promoted in 1875 to the episcopal see of Valencia. Very hostile prelate to the laws of Jules Ferry. Father Auguste Milliot, born in 1862 in Allevard, poet, teacher and Catholic writer. Lily Fayol, variety artiste, singer, was born in Allevard on 12 June 1914. Pierre Rambaud, sculptor and painter,